Hey there, it's Mandy from Mandy Marie Art. Over the next few weeks, I'm going to be releasing a series of videos where I will swatch all of the Copic inks I have in my personal collection. I have roughly 225, give or take, that I will swatch, so not all of the 365 colors, but pretty close. So if you're wanting to see the Copic colors swatched with me, go ahead and hit that subscribe button below and you'll be notified the second I upload a new video. For today, I'm really excited because the first series of colors I'm going to swatch are the blue violets. I think I'm only missing one of the blue violets, so this series is nearly complete. All right, let's get started. Starting with BV000, which is Iridescent Mauve. One drop here. A little bit of 91% ISO, which is what I'll be using for all the swatches. You can see very, very little staining, maybe just a tiny bit of pink staining to the paper. There's a little bit of pink, a little bit of blue bleeding through, which of course is going to happen with anything BV, right? Pinks and blues in there. See, it's just a very soft purple. Next color is BV00, which is Mauve Shadow. And just a drop there, some ISO. Very subtle pink staining again with this one. Not much, pretty stable, just like the first color. It's not very thick, little thicker than the Iridescent Mauve, so this has a little bit of gumminess to it, not a lot, so it will give you some texture. Doesn't dry as smooth like that first one. Next color is BV01, which is Viola. Now Viola stains the paper blue. It's a very soft baby blue, but you can see it's there. It does leave that little staining circle, but overall not much in the staining department as it spreads out or anything like that. So it's just that initial drop. The color is pretty stable in terms of like not a lot of halos. It's not very thick like Mauve Shadow. Next color is BV02, which is Prune. Prune will also stain the paper blue, so you can see that light blue is in there, but the blue and the pink pretty much become halos throughout. So you'll see the blue kind of spreading across the paper and staining as it goes. So it's not just isolated to the one spot, it moves around, so it has just this really nice blue, but then the undertones, definitely lots of pink showing through there. Texture wise, builds up nice along the edges, but it's not gummy like Mauve Shadow, so overall pretty good. Next one, BV04, which is Blueberry. Blueberry has a little bit of staining again on the base, but not as much. It does also have that blue that spreads throughout. Obviously a lot more vibrant compared to the last few colors. And then of course you can see those pink undertones really coming through, blue undertones really coming through. Overall though, not a super thick ink. So in terms of viscosity, it's not very thick. And it's not very gummy either. Next color is BV08, which is Blue Violet. Really rich color, Lots of blue staining happening on underneath, but you don't see it as much as the last, you know, few colors. This one though does have some pink halos, so that you'll get those undertones if you use it quite a bit. And then the blue is a lot more subtle. Next color is BV11, which is soft violet. Not nearly as much staining on the paper, just a very subtle pink underneath it, so it shouldn't impact too much of your work. Very stable color, not a lot of undertones. It's not gummy in terms of viscosity. It's not very thick. There might be a slight bit of gumminess, but not a lot. Nothing that I just don't think it would be very noticeable. Next color is BV13, which is Hydrangea Blue. This one is a bit more viscosity to it, but not much. Definitely stains the paper blue underneath. Pink, of course, coming through with those undertones. Just a tad bit softer than Blueberry. Not by much, but just a little bit. Next color is BV17, which is deep reddish blue. Thicker color, staining the paper overall, but again, it moves with you, so very similar to Prune. So it's all over the paper and it moves with the ink. Lots of pink coming through again, so pink undertones, that bleeding will happen, the pink halos. This one is a tad bit gummier, so the viscosity is a little bit thicker with BV17. Let's slide this paper down and we'll keep going here. BV20 is next, which is Dull Lavender. I happen to love this color. So Dull Lavender has a lot of gray to it, and so you'll see that quite a bit. Stains the paper blue, but the blue does kind of move with it a little bit, and then there is just a little bit of pink halo happening there. You can see that blue is pretty much right in the center there where the main part of the ink was at first, but it does move to that outer edge. And the pink is not as intense. It's not as vibrant as the other colors. This one is more subtle. It's more of like a dusty rose for those halos or pink undertones, if you will. Next color is BV23, which is Grayish Lavender. Again, sticking with those gray undertones. Along the page here. So not as much bleeding, but there is some, and the bleeding is more of the pinks on the paper. So that's what, or not bleeding, excuse me, staining. The staining is more of the pink on the paper. In terms of bleeding out, no real undertones to really see there other than, like I said, that pink staining. So for the most part, it's a pretty stable color. It's definitely not very gummy or thick in terms of texture. Next color is BV25, which is Grayish Violet. And this color, again, as the name implies, a lot of grays. And so you can see, just again, a little bit of pink staining. Not very much in terms of like undertones bleeding out. A little thicker, so a little gummier, so the viscosity is a little thicker. Again, just that pink undertone in the center, but in terms of stability, it's a pretty stable color. There isn't you know, a lot of bleeding out. Next color is BV29, which is Slate, and probably one of the most popular colors in the Copic line, I think. This one, in terms of thickness and viscosity, it's great. So if you're looking for adding texture, building up color, this color is definitely a good choice. But there's lots of staining, right? So lots of blue staining, even pink staining. There's pink halos for sure. So those pink undertones are bleeding out, but it's a really nice deep purple. It mixes really well with other colors. So overall, one of the more popular options in the BV line. Next is BV31, which is pale lavender. We're getting back into those lighter colors. And pale lavender has a lot more pink. It does stain the paper blue, but it's really subtle in comparison to like Prune or Blue Violet, or Blueberry, excuse me. So this one is not as noticeable on the paper. It stains it initially, but you can kind of work it a little bit where it doesn't stain as much. It's a pretty stable color, not a lot of halos, and it's not very gummy. It doesn't have a lot of texture. And the last color that I have for swatching is BV34, which is Bluebell. So Bluebell here, not a lot of staining, just a tiny little bit of pink staining on the bottom, but you can kind of push it around. So really stable color, not a lot of halos. It's not really gummy or thick in texture, so it would spread around really easily in a painting. All right, one last look at my personal collection of inks in the Blue Violet range from Copic. That's it from me. I hope you enjoyed this video. As another reminder, I'm going to be releasing a series of videos where I will swatch all of the Copic inks that I have in my personal collection. So if you're wanting to see all of the Copic colors swatched in real time with detailed info about each color, go ahead and hit that subscribe button below and you'll be notified the second I upload a new video.